Welcome to Space Matrix. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more updates. The name Trump once echoed through the canyons of global finance, a brand etched in gold, a symbol of audacious wealth and power. Donald Trump built an empire of skyscrapers, golf courses, and casinos, defying odds and surviving bankruptcies, lawsuits, and political storms. But tonight, on the last day of August 2025, that empire is teetering. The golden letters on his buildings have lost their luster, tarnished by a crisis that struck with lightning speed. The foundations, once thought solid, are showing deep cracks. This time, the threat isn't from a rival in New York or a political opponent in Washington, but from an unexpected direction, a quiet neighbor to the north. The Trump Organization's vast web of assets is under siege. The world is watching as the drama unfolds in real time. How did a figure who commanded world stages find himself in such a precarious position? The answer: a chain reaction of legal troubles, ending with a crippling blow from an ally turned adversary. The Trump empire faces its ultimate test, and the outcome remains uncertain. The path to this crisis was paved with years of legal battles and mounting financial pressures. Even before Canada's move, the Trump Organization was under intense scrutiny in New York for alleged financial fraud, manipulating asset values to secure loans and dodge taxes. Banks grew wary, and the steady flow of capital slowed to a trickle. The company struggled to refinance loans and fund new projects, isolating the empire. In early 2025, a landmark New York ruling found the Trump Organization liable for massive fraud, imposing a staggering penalty and crippling its operations in its home state. Trump and his executives faced the real possibility of asset seizures. To avoid losing his New York properties, Trump reportedly tried to move vast sums out of the country. He needed a safe haven for his wealth, a place beyond the reach of U.S. authorities. His gaze turned northward to Canada's stable banking system. It seemed like the perfect escape. But this move would prove to be a catastrophic miscalculation. The seeds of discord had been sown. The stage was set for a dramatic confrontation. Canada, long a calm and steady U.S. ally, suddenly became the center of Trump's financial storm. The Canadian government, led by a new administration committed to anti-corruption, saw Trump's asset transfers as a direct challenge. Allowing Canada to become a haven for assets fleeing a U.S. legal judgment was not an option. Ottawa decided on a bold, unprecedented response. Invoking the Special Economic Measures Act, usually reserved for rogue states, Canada targeted Trump and his organization. The reason: to prevent Canada's financial system from undermining U.S. justice. The act empowered the government to freeze all Trump-linked assets within Canadian borders. It was a financial declaration of war, sending shockwaves through diplomatic and financial circles. Never before had Canada used such a tool against a major U.S. figure. The Northern Gambit was met with a northern wall. The consequences for Trump's empire would be immediate and severe. The moment the Special Economic Measures Act was invoked, a digital wall slammed down across Canada's financial system. Every bank and investment firm received the order: identify and freeze all assets linked to Trump, his family, and his network. Billions in transferred funds were instantly locked, digital prisoners. Canada's advanced banking system executed the freeze in minutes, leaving no loopholes. The Trump Organization's escape plan failed spectacularly. The freeze extended beyond cash to stocks, real estate investments, and lucrative branding deals. Even the Trump Tower and Hotel in Vancouver saw its revenue streams severed. The impact was catastrophic, a severe liquidity crisis. Trump had counted on Canadian reserves to pay his massive obligations, including the New York judgment. With that money locked away, he was left exposed and vulnerable. Canada's digital wall didn't just block an escape, it cut off the empire's air supply. The collapse accelerated. Canada's bold action triggered a global chain reaction. News of the asset freeze spread rapidly, warning banks and governments worldwide doing business with Trump was now toxic. International banks, especially in Europe and the Middle East, began distancing themselves. Switzerland increased scrutiny. The UK's financial institutions pulled back. Trump's golf courses in Scotland lost financing. Each closed door isolated the empire further. Back in the US, Trump's inability to pay the New York judgment gave authorities the green light to seize his assets. Iconic properties faced liens and garnishments. The slow dismantling began. As revenue dried up, lenders called in loans, triggering defaults across the portfolio. The collapse fed on itself, a classic financial death spiral. Each seizure made the company weaker, triggering more defaults. The dominoes fell faster and faster. The empire, built over a lifetime, unraveled in weeks. Today, the Trump Organization is a shadow of its former self. The aftermath of the Canadian freeze and global blockade is corporate devastation. Iconic properties like Trump Tower are under court control. The golden Trump signs are coming down. The brand, once synonymous with luxury, is now linked to collapse. Assets are being liquidated to pay debts and satisfy judgments. A public auction of a once great empire. Trump's net worth has been decimated, his fortune exposed as a house of cards. He faces personal bankruptcy, a humiliating fate for the self-proclaimed dealmaker. The political fallout is severe. The image of a master businessman is shattered. The Canadian model sets a new precedent for international cooperation in enforcing legal judgments. The era of being too big to fail may be ending, replaced by global accountability. The main chapter of the Trump business saga is closed. The ruins stand as a stark reminder: no empire is truly invincible. As the dust settles, the question remains, what's next for Donald Trump? This is not just a failed project, it's the dismantling of his life's work. He faces years of lawsuits, bankruptcy courts, and legal battles. Retreat from the public eye seems unlikely for a man who thrives on attention. More likely, he'll try to leverage his political brand, his last valuable asset. He may turn to media, public speaking, or fundraising, shifting from businessman to political figure out of necessity. Internationally, the Canadian model will shape future financial enforcement. The aftershocks of Canada's decision will echo for years in global finance and law. Ultimately, Trump's future is unwritten. Will he rebuild, or spend his final years fighting a system that finally held him to account? The world watches fascinated as the Titan's last chapter begins.